Hi everybody. So in this video, I am going to provide some feedback to a student who sent me a very rough draft sketch of some ideas that they've been thinking about, which is what we are looking at here. So what we're seeing, and this student contacted me at the beginning of the project and asked if they could move the stairs to the center of the space and maybe have them divided with a landing like this. And I said yes. However, the space is already set up and designed to have the stairs in that specific location. So if you do move them, it is going to add extra complications to the project just for you in general, and understanding what this will look like in section, and the ramifications it will have on the floor plan in general. That being said, I did not want to say no because this is all about design creativity, and it sounded like the student had it very well considered and thought out. And so here is this first rough draft sketch. So above this, I have some reactions to it. But before we get into those, I am going to talk a little bit about what I am seeing. So I don't actually see, and I know they also preferenced that, many things are not included because it's just that rough, like a main entrance or at least a door to the outside. So I'm definitely seeing rooms. So everything is fairly divided up into separate rooms, or at least it is coming off that way. I'm seeing 2 bedrooms. I'm seeing a separated study, and I'm seeing 2 bathrooms. And this is all, even though there's stairs going up, this appears to all be on the first floor. So that makes me wonder what's on the second floor. But this also looks much larger than the overall footprint of the space that we're working with. And that is something that we do need to consider the parameters of. So what I did is I created bubbles about the sizes of, all of these spaces, because these spaces were considered, in their square footage. And I brought up the actual footprint, or the shell that we're working with. And then I traced over the size of the stairs here, or a little bit of the design, but then I also made sure to make this corner stair work, so it has the same number of stairs, and it takes the same amount of space. It's just a little bit of a different design. So that is what this would look like in this design. And so placing it, and so I just created a bubble diagram based on a new design, and the spaces that the student created. These are bubbles with the same sizes that were in that floor plan. So, and I thought that this would be a good example. This is all hypothetical. So I kind of took some design liberty and just moved through it. And I thought that it would be a good example to show some process. So just to get us started, down here, this is our scale bar. So we are looking at a scaled drawing to 1/4 inch. Based on this scale bar, each one of these is 3 feet. So when we think about that, a general door, a single door, has about a 3-foot opening. So one track of this is about the size of a door. So that also helps give us some sense of proportion when we're doing bubbles and we're not necessarily measuring things to specific scale. But these bubbles are based on actual square footages. So one thing I thought of, since these stairs are centrally placed, and there are a number of places to put these stairs. I thought about it a little bit and I put it here because thinking if the main entry was here, you could easily turn right, and then here's more of a formal entry space, which is why I put mud in quotes, because I don't think mudroom, um, in this specific bubble arrangement, or like I will say, my bubble diagram works as well. And you can take the liberty of retitling things based on your concept or your style or your ideas. So I just put that in parentheses. And so I also noticed one thing that I have been seeing often is that floor plans or diagrams are coming in that do not have this plumbing vertical riser there. And it looks like it's impacting the floor plan. So when I do put it in the floor plan, it ends up, as if it wasn't considered, and it would have a negative impact. So leaving this here, because this is where plumbing is going to be, I clustered the bath, the utility, and the kitchen. And so if the stairs are going up, and then here's a landing, and then they go up more, by the time you get to this area, you're going to have pretty much a space for a room. You might have you might have some of that stringer on the stairs, just kind of angling off the top of the bathroom, which is very common in residential design, especially for smaller bathrooms in places where you need to be really considerate about space. So I tucked the bath in here and the utility as well. A part of the utility was laundry. And so I'm thinking at this point, these bubbles, I would like them to merge to some extent, or to be a little bit more cohesive and less separated. But right now, I'm not quite sure how to achieve that. I just want to know, I want a space plan to allow for that to happen when I am ready. And then I placed the kitchen here. So if you went in the front, you'd go through the entrance, you pass the bathroom, and you're in the kitchen. And then there's also a rear entry with another mud area, which this might actually be more storage. So this is more of an informal entry. So, think about if you were carrying groceries in, you might just want a back door kind of thing. So you're coming in and you can go right to the kitchen. In addition to that, the original design that we're starting with here had 2 bedrooms. So remember that this is a 1-bedroom condo, but you need to have space for overnight guests. So that doesn't necessarily mean to add a bedroom. It could. That's definitely a way to go about it. You will want to make sure, just to make it apparent, that you talk about that. You added a bedroom. But I've also put that in quotations because it's possible that this, isn't considered a bedroom, but maybe it's more of a multi-purpose space. So it could be a yoga room, or just, think of a different room. But also, if there is a guest staying here, they have a rear entry that is close to the guest bedroom. So that's handy, guests kind of like their own, their own power here, autonomy. But then I'm thinking there might be a way to just kind of like also connect these and going through here. I'm thinking if you're in the kitchen, you're doing some laundry. If you're in the kitchen cooking and you have to go to the bathroom, you don't want those to be too far away. And also this guest bathroom is really close to the guest quote unquote bedroom. Going back to the front door, if you were to go left, you have this dining living area. So these are the bubbles for each space, but you can see that they're overlapping, which means that because of space constraints, we are going to have to consider a design that maybe is more of a great room that captures both programmatic needs in a singular space, or has some creative design aspects to it, which is totally fine for the client and his needs. But I'm also thinking the program did say merging the outdoors with the indoors with relation to the living space. So thinking about how this feels like it might just spill over into, I just called it a patio space. So here we can have sliding doors and you can easily go out onto the patio space. But this is a little bit of a hallway here. You can go through and get to the guest bedroom and the bathroom utility area as well. So the guest bedroom can easily go out the sliding doors also. And then this patio space comes really close with aligning with the rear entry. So there is a design opportunity there to think about a connection between that as well. Now, so thinking about the second floor, moving over here, I took the sizes of the bubbles for these three elements from the original plan and laid them out. I put the stairs here. So now we're going down. So now we have this as available floor space. So thinking that the opening, because you walk up the stairs, you need an opening for your head to go through. So that cutout would be maybe this space right here. And so the study could maybe hug the railing and this little niche created by the stairs. And then there's a little space over here. So maybe the study could be broken out in almost like two areas. The one that needs his monitor and more formal office space, and maybe one that's more has bookshelves for reading, something like that. I haven't, at this point in bubble diagramming, I haven't quite thought of that. So I just put the bubble over everything. So you're coming up the stairs, and then you kind of go in the back and you just have this whole space, could be the bedroom, and then the bathroom, because this bath is essentially the primary bathroom. And I say primary because we no longer call master bedrooms. They're primary bedrooms. So essentially this doesn't need to be super accessible to guests or anybody else other than those sleeping in the primary bedroom. So that is tucked in. I'm thinking it's only accessible. Maybe it's a Jack and Jill here, and you can access it through the study, or maybe around somehow. I haven't figured it out at this stage in the game, but you don't have to when you're doing bubbles. You can just put them where you're thinking. Captures the routine. So what is the next step from this? Well, I went into it. So it's the block diagram. So block diagrams, they can be super hard-edged in like actual rectangles, but they really are just the middle ground between bubble diagrams and starting to think about the floor plan. So we're thinking a little bit more specifically about how the space is functioning. So on the first floor, this time around, I got rid of the stairs that were here so we can more clearly see the space. And then I added some arrows, and I will explain those. So when you walk in, I just, for the sake of communication, added arrows on where people might go. So these are circulation arrows, not just for thinking about circulation space, but also paths that people might have. So I have an arrow going from the kitchen to this bath/laundry. Okay, so at this point, I've now said, okay, a bath and a laundry. I could do that, showing that you can easily get to this space from the kitchen. And then with the rear entry, I am now also showing that you can get to the kitchen and to the guest bedroom through the rear entry. But I have, if you look up here, I just had one mud circle. And down here, I've actually separated it. So I have, because a lot of the mud program elements are satisfied here, I don't need that much space for what's remaining. So I just put a little bit. And then since there are some utility aspects that I just didn't want to have, like the electrical panel, things like that. So there's a little area. There's also supposed to be 12 feet of storage space. So perhaps some things like that can go here. are more appropriate to be here. So you can divide up the space as you see fit. And then on the left-hand side, so the program also says we need a fireplace, and then we're getting more specific to floor plans. So I added a fireplace to the block diagram, and I added that here, right here, this rectangle, and there's a little rectangle inside. And what that is, this little rectangle inside is actually the fireplace, and the larger rectangle around it is the fireplace surround, which hypothetically for this design could be some kind of bench seating. But I'm thinking that this fireplace is double-sided. So it's open on the living room side and it's open on the dining room side. And it is centered to the space. And if you look at this big dotted line right here, this goes through the center of the space. So we're going through the center of this fireplace. We go through the center of the stairs, through the plumbing riser, and then out the other side. So things are generally aligned, and it's creating a logic to the plan. But then it's also centered this way as well. And because the importance of merging indoors and outdoors, it emphasizes the relationship of the patio to the relationship of the living and dining space. So even though there is some separation, because this fireplace creates separation between, more of a lounging area and more of an eating area, it does connect them, and there's plenty of room to walk around on the sides. I'm thinking people could sit here. You could have some books or some pottery, some things on display while there's a fire going, etc. So what I also added, you're seeing these black bars in the walls. So something to think about with block plans too is placement of windows, because in the assignment, it does say that there's not adequate windows, and there should be more. So thinking about that and how windows can reinforce some of the needs of the space. So like this merging of the inside to the outside. So I thought, okay, let's put a big window between the living room and the patio. But doing that, why not take this exact same window and put it on the same place on the wall in the front as well? So now, even if you're outside in the front as you approach the house from the front entry, you may have a clear view right through this space. And that could be the beginning of your interior experience before you even enter through the threshold. And so now we're connecting the exterior to the front entry as well. And then let's see, what else are we thinking here? I think I covered this. Oh, the windows. I took this exact same window and put it here as well. That's a lot of windows, because I'm thinking these are big and they're a big block. It doesn't mean it's just one sheet of glass. It's just there's windows here. That's all that means. And so even though this space is divided by the fireplace and we're putting two, probably busy areas in one space, these windows are going to make it feel larger. And because of the windows, you almost get a 360 view of the outside, which is really neat. And then on the other side, actually, you have this lofted space. And so thinking about, okay, if I have almost a 360 view of the outside, but then this goes up and we have a lofted space, how does this view continue? So we have some challenges, some things to keep thinking about. And so moving on to the second floor. Now I've taken the study and formed it around the remaining space. So thinking the cutout would include the landing and the rectangle with the second bank of stairs up. And so now you have this whole area that is hugged by study aspects. You could probably carry the study over into this area. There's definitely room on the second floor because as of now, we're having a lot of extra room. So I actually think the space allotted to this primary bedroom is larger than the student originally planned for. And I think that just was, when I was drawing the block plan, I just kind of blocked out this whole space. So that's that at this point in terms of thinking about the block plan. So I did integrate windows onto this second, floor. So also because it's open to below, you still want this open space to say open to below. And if you have elements that are tall, that are coming to the ceiling, such as a fireplace, you also want to include an indication of that, even if they're in a lighter line weight or a lighter gray or however, so they don't take away from the floor plan of the lofted space, but you know that they're there. And then I also included the windows that are here because I, in my head, am picturing these, at least the two on the front and the back, extending past the first floor. Obviously, this one only can go to the first floor because that's as tall as that wall is, but these go up. And so what does that mean for the rest of the house? Because now we have these giant windows and we have, what does that look like from the outside? So if the front entry is not centered, it doesn't have to be, but because it lines up right to a window, I'm thinking having a little bit of window on the other side of the front entry would make sense. And generally that's psychologically makes people feel comfortable in an entry. So I'm thinking of having these smaller windows, and maybe they're like tall and skinny windows, like transom windows that, span up taller. So these maybe go all the way up. So they're just long, skinny windows spanning the whole facade. So they do show up on this side too, because those exact same windows or placement of windows, they might be separate actual windows, but they're on top of each other. Those are here. So I just carried up the placement of those windows as well. And then going back to the first floor, I added those two windows in the exact same place here, over here. So really, why did I put these windows here? Well, I was thinking about what it would look like from the outside, but also functionality in the kitchen. So how would this kitchen design work with windows? And where, if you were in the kitchen, where is the best place to include a window? So if you're cooking and you're waiting for somebody to arrive, you can see them through the window if they're coming into the front entry. So that's kind of nice. And over here, now you're noticing another bank of window that was not on the first floor. So this is a window that's only happening at the second story level. And it might just be a transom window. So the same thing as these long skinny windows, but now it's horizontal. So in the bedroom, there might be more of a window that happens at the top of the home where it comes to that peak. So now when we're down here, depending on the architecture that gets built with the walls, we might see some of this light coming through, depending. So that's the logic of where I took this. So my advice on this floor plan is just remember that there's 2 stories and try to stay within the parameters of the actual footprint. Now it is okay to push and pull in some areas, like if you wanted one of these entries to actually bump out, or like these stairs, but you still need to accommodate the actual cabin, because hypothetically this project is about a client who purchased this cabin and he's just remodeling the interior. So sometimes that means the exterior gets work done. So you want to actually maintain this lofted space. That's important. But everything else, like windows and doors and even the location of the stairs, that's up to you. Just know that if you move the stairs, you will have to accurately depict that in your section drawing and in your model. So think about that, and keep thinking about scale, and everything. But also think about the relationship between the spaces. So what does it mean, for a design to just be a bunch of closed off rooms versus completely open? Those are, or anywhere in between. Um, think about the relationship of how people are using the space. Like, coming, if you're getting groceries, if you're it's a cabin, it's a getaway space, people are coming in with like a week's worth of groceries, to tide them over. What's an easy way for them to get it into the space? Or maybe even if they're doing outdoor activities and they may have messy gear or skis, do you want that coming in the front entry? Maybe depending on your concept. Maybe it's you have more of a rustic idea. This is more formal, thinking about this as more of a formal entry. There's really no right or wrong, as long as you stick to your concept and you explain why you did what you did. So, um, let's see. That's all I have in terms of, taking scaled bubbles on the floor plan into a block plan, and then just starting to think about maybe the logic of a floor plan and how things are lining up and how you can separate them, or not, and how spaces can become one or not. So, all right. I hope that is helpful. Thank you, everybody.